RAF Ingham, and remembering the 166 aircrew who flew from this airfield between 1942 and 1944 but never returned. We're also here to remember and honour the deeds and sacrifices made by the men and women of the Polish Air Force bomber squadrons, both on the ground and in the air. For them, they'd already lost their homeland, and Britain had become their island of last hope. Today you'll hear from different narrators about the history and struggles of both. Our story started some 5.5 years ago when a small group of local community volunteers banded together to create RAF Ingham Heritage Group. Our initial aim was simply to undertake research of our airfield, but it quickly became apparent that there was an appetite to do a whole lot more. In 2012, we secured a 25-year lease on the Airmen's Mess building that you can see to your right, and a small piece of land which you're sitting on right now. And we set about the renovation project. The idea of the Heritage Centre to have a memorial garden was present right from the outset. But all of a sudden, the memorial garden project became a focus for our attention as we waited for Heritage Lottery grant funding. From the drawing board and planning stages, we were suddenly ready to get moving. The first spade of soil was only dug in February this year, and here we are today, 3.5 months later. We hope you'll all agree that it looks spectacular and is a fitting memorial to the forgotten 106 airmen from RAF Ingham and to the Polish bomber squadrons who fought alongside the RAF during World War II. This is the only memorial anywhere in the UK dedicated solely to the Polish bomber squadrons. As a consequence, the former Polish Air Force Association Charitable Trust bestowed on us the title of Home of the Polish Bomber Squadrons. We will strive to live up to this honour and keep alive their memory. There are many people who I'd like to thank for helping us turn this pipe dream into a reality. I'm sure I'll miss out somebody, to which I apologise. I'd like to thank Richard Konieczki and the Polish Air Force Association Charitable Trust for being the first organisation to understand and believe in our vision and to support us financially and practically. I'd like to thank Krzysztof de Berg and the Polish Ex-Combatants Association for their financial support, to Artur Bilzik for providing me with so many contacts and delivering sound advice, to Johnson & Smith Construction for delivering far more than the contract had required and for going that extra mile, to Stuart Kinch of John Kinch Group for loaning us his plant equipment, diggers, rollers and dumper trucks every weekend for the last 8 or 9 weeks, despite 1 or 2 mishaps. We couldn't have completed the project on time or within budget without his extraordinary generosity. To Lukasz Lutastansky, the Consul General for Manchester, and his team Jegosz and Camille, for their great friendship and stoic support and belief in our project, and for engaging with the Polish government in Warsaw to provide funding to ensure the success of the project and for today's ceremony. And most importantly, to our incredible team of local community volunteers who, regardless of the weather, including snow and rain, have remained focused on creating a truly inspiring memorial garden to inspire and enthuse future generations to ensure they understand and never forget the sacrifices made to ensure your freedom and ours. And finally, to my wife Deborah for her love, support, encouragement and above all her patience through the project, especially when I was dead on my feet, extremely frustrated or just burning the early morning and midnight oil when she barely saw me for days. On behalf of all the volunteers and members of the RAF Ingham Heritage Group, we welcome you and thank you for supporting our event. We now have an address by His Excellency the Ambassador of the Republic of Poland, Mr. Wiltold Sobkow. My apologies.
Deputy Lieutenant of Lincolnshire, Chairman of West Lindsey District, High Sheriff of Lincolnshire, Catholic faith leaders, distinguished military guests representing the Royal Air Forces and the High Commission of Australia, veterans and veterans' families, distinguished Polish and British friends. We have gathered here to pay tribute to the Polish, British, Australian and Canadian airmen who stationed at the Ingham RAF station from the 17th of May 1942 to the 1st of November 1946. RAF Ingham, renamed in 1944 to Ingham, was a home to many squadrons and training units throughout the war period, including famous Polish bombing squadrons, 300 Mazowian, as well as 305 Ziemi Wielkopolskie. Ingham was a place of residence not only for soldiers, but also for their families. It is worth mentioning that after the military campaign was terminated on the 1st of November 1946, the RAF station was transformed into #1 resettlement unit Ingham, which acted as a home to many Polish families that could not go back to their fatherland due to communist repressions that took place in Poland while the country was under the Soviet occupation in the wake of the Second World War agreements. We all recognize the incredible contribution of the Polish fighting squadrons during the Battle of Britain, with our famous Squadron 303 and many others. Nevertheless, the history of the bombing squadrons, including the Polish SQs and their contribution to the Allied victory, has almost been forgotten. Sir Winston Churchill said about those who had fought in the Battle of Britain, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." We need to remember these words and commemorate bombing squadrons with the same respect as our fighters. The Polish airmen who served in RAF squadrons had always in their hearts our common values: Bóg, honor, ojczyzna, God, honor and fatherland. These values expressed their commitment, bravery and professionalism. Poland and Poles were victims of inhuman Nazi bombings from the very beginning of the Second World War in September 1939. There were many occupied countries during the war, but it must be stated that Poland was the most affected and was left in ruins after the war. It is worth mentioning that Professor Norman Davies, in his excellent book entitled Europe at War, claims that only in Warsaw thousands of Polish people, mainly civilians, lost their lives as a result of the Nazi bombing, which amounts to the number of people that lost their lives in both Berlin and Dresden together. Warsaw was completely destroyed to the ground zero level. Having said that, we can only try to understand the feelings of those Polish airmen who were stationed at Ingham. While Polish airmen were fighting here in Britain, their family members were fighting in the occupied Poland, including the Warsaw Uprising. On the right-hand side, we can see a beautiful and symbolic monument representing statues of the Polish airmen that luckily came back from their missions. However, first of all, we need to remember all those who were not so lucky and did not manage to come back to their base. At present, we have a large population of Poles who have settled down in Lincolnshire. They work very hard, they educate their children here, they contribute to the economic and social, cultural growth and prosperity of this wonderful region. I strongly believe that the Ingham Heritage Project will become one of the most remarkable projects visible on many maps of tourist attractions in future. Let me express now my special recognition to all the members of the Ingham Heritage Group, particularly to its leader, Mr. Jeff Burton and his crew. Congratulations. Furthermore, I know that many Poles supported the Ingham projects, including Mr. David Ruszka with his squad from Blackburn, whose work is a perfect example of friendship between Poland and the United Kingdom. I also thank all those who volunteered from Blackburn, Nottingham, as well as Derby and Grimsby. This project would not have been successful without the outstanding support of the Association of the Polish Airmen from London, with a special commitment of Mr. and Mrs. Bliczuk, as well as the chairman, Deputy Lieutenant Mr. Richard Kornicki. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to cooperate in future to achieve the final aim of our work, which is to fully complete the Museum of the Polish Bombing Squadrons here in Ingham. We are delighted to work with the Royal Air Force, the Lincolnshire authorities, as well as Poles and our British friends. Ingham should be developed in future and become a fully refurbished original base, transformed into a full-size museum of the home of the Polish squadrons and our brothers in arms from the United Kingdom, Canada and Australia. The aim of the museum will be to educate young generations of British as well as Polish people and pay homage to those that sacrificed their lives fighting for freedom and democracy on our continent.